Welcome to the Doc G Show, a radio show cluster. Without further ado, critics have said he has the face for radio and a voice for silent films. Your host, Ben Doc G Gordon.
And we are on the air. Welcome to the Doc G Show. I'm your host, Doc G. With me, as always, the one, the only, Mikey Maximus, the Verticus.
Say what?
Charette.
Doc G, what is up, sir?
Oh, man. Woo. Mike, another week. You're putting it in. You're putting it in the other jobs, not the Doc G Show.
Mm-hmm.
I feel for you. You're just telling me. Fatigued. You are. A lot of hours, listeners. He is putting in hours in his job.
Yeah. Can I tell them? I can say no. I probably shouldn't.
I don't know. Is that allowed? He's working on a very popular film. Okay, that's what he's doing.
Wow.
Can't say what he's doing, what it is, where it's at, but it's a popular film, listeners.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Very cool thing.
Yeah.
Mike, and I'm going to tell you about another cool thing I'm very excited about.
Tell me about it.
We had hundreds of new listeners on YouTube.
What?
This past week's show. Yes.
Thank you, listeners. We appreciate that.
And Mike, the thing that got me excited, and I told you before we came on air, this is specifically just the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't a video. This is them just saying, let's listen to these turkeys talk it out.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a solid new little audience right there. A couple hundred listens.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
A solid little audience right there.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, it's it's a still image. They're not even watching the video of us or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was thinking, I was like, what can I do? What can me and Mike do to entertain these new folks?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I started thinking about it, and they got me to go use the old YouTube analytics, Mike. Yeah. Have you ever checked that out?
Yeah, I check it out, but it can be good and bad. The analytics.
It's ridiculous though, Mike.
Yeah.
I gotta say, their analytics way more than any other streaming service.
Yeah.
You can just go bananas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I can look, if I want to, I can look at what other channels viewers of our channel watch.
Yeah.
And I can look at that city to city.
Mm-hmm.
And be like, well, what do the Minnesotans watch after they watch me? What's going on there? Right?
Yeah.
Like, I can look at age demographics. Mike, by the way, shout out to the 13 and 17-year-olds who listen to this show.
Cool.
They make up 0.4% of our views on YouTube.
Hey, cool kids.
Exactly. I can only imagine you are not popular at all in school. Hey, Colin, what are you doing after school? I don't know. I may just go listen to the Doc G Show. What? Hey, guys, Colin's going to go listen to the Doc G Show. We should probably, I don't know, beat the of him. What do you say? Like, what? No, but shout out to you guys. 0.4% of our crowd. Thank you.
Thank you.
But regardless, Mike, the analytics are amazing. Like, you can sync up individual cities, individual age groups, and when exactly they stopped watching the video.
Yeah.
I can go on there and be like, all right, let's see the exact second of the show where female viewers 18 to 24 in Seattle, Washington said, this guy sucks. I'm not watching this anymore.
See, this is why it's bad. This is why it's not good.
Spoiler alert, Mike. It's not too long in the show that demographic says, I've had enough.
Nope.
I've had enough. Most likely in this show we're on right now, they've already stopped listening.
Yeah.
They have definitely stopped listening.
So true.
But Mike, I was cruising all this data, and I started thinking about our last show, because that was the show that was actually getting all these listens. And I was like, they had hundreds of new listens. What's the first thing they heard? And they heard us talking about President's Day, Mike.
Sweet.
That's what they heard.
Hilarious.
President's Day talk, you know? And I was like, it's pretty lame.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any better stuff? And I was like, nah, probably not.
No.
It's probably the best we got.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, Mike, I got a little self-conscious, and I was like, we should have brought the heat.
Yeah.
We should have been talking about bidets again. You know? I mean, we all know.
It's a popular subject. Yeah.
Exactly, Mike.
Yeah.
It's straight fire when you talk about bidets.
Yeah.
You know?
People are passionate.
Because of that, Mike, I went down a little bit of a bidet rabbit hole again.
There we go. That's how we start a show.
Just a little bit. And Mike, I found a way to meld two things that we love on the show.
President's Day and bidets.
Which presidents used bidets? No.
Tom Brady and bidets?
Wow.
I bet he does. I bet you anything he does, Mike. But I melded, why would you review that? And bidets, Mike.
There we go.
A review of a bidet.
There we go.
Mike, I came across the Tushy Classic 3.0. The Tushy Classic 3.0. It's just a bidet seat. And I got to be honest, Mike, people love this bidet seat. Yes! It was so hard for me to choose a review, but I'm going to give you one. I'm going to give you Alan M right here. This is Alan M. This is a five-star review for the Tushy Classic 3.0. Here we go. Quote, I installed my first Tushy Classic 3.0 exactly a year ago. There's a bit of a learning curve. How long do I let it spray?
Huh?
It occasionally doesn't hit the bullseye. How do I adjust so quickly so it hits the bullseye again? Mike, I'm guessing the bullseye is his butthole. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you really want it to go exactly in, though?
I don't think so.
Know?
But I don't know. I don't know.
But he says, Mike, the learning curve is short, as this is not rocket science. After a short while using the bidet, I realized that not only do I use much less TP, in parentheses, Mike, now he uses an average of 4 squares.
Jeez.
This man is a conservationist. 4 squares?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Not a lot of squares. I mean, depending on the role, you know.
Very low. Yeah, unless, I mean, super absorbent, maybe. But then he goes on to say, but the wiping operation is more about drying off now than cleaning up. Using a bidet is just more civilized and more sanitary. Here's a tip for the men. Mike, are you listening?
Yeah, I'm listening, Doc G. I know this is a whole convincing. You're just trying to convince me. You're just trying to get me. Next week on the show, I'm going to announce I have a bidet.
I'm not trying to convince you, Mike. Alan M is trying to convince you. But he says, here's a tip for men. Get your junk out of the spray zone, and you will have less to dry off. I'm guessing you just hold them up like a purse bag. I don't know. After about 10 months, my wife finally started using the Tushy. So I bought a second one for the other bathroom. She was very resistant, but she finally realized that it is simply a better way to clean butts.
That's a fact.
Amen, Alan. Amen.
Thank you.
Not finished, though, Mike.
Nope.
I tried recycled TP. Exactly. I tried recycled TP to also cut down on the amount of virgin pulp. Look at Alan using lingo. Virgin pulp. That sounds pretty dirty, too.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Virgin pulp. I tried recycled TP to cut down on the amount of virgin pulp used for butt cleaning, but the paper tears too easy. Now we use bamboo TP.
Bamboo TP. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The Classic 3.0 is inexpensive but effective. It doesn't have any bells or whistles. It just does the job. Our bathrooms do not really allow us to hook up either warm water or electricity. So I'm just thankful that the Tushy offers us this civilized, no frills option for daily butt cleaning. Yes. Yes, Alan. Yes. Mike, that's just one review. One review out of almost 18,000 reviews.
Wow.
With an average of 4.7 stars for the Tushy Classic 3.0.
I'm writing it down. Tushy Classic.
Yeah. I got to say, Mike, it was almost impossible to choose Alan's review because there were thousands of Shakespearean reviewers out there. I mean, they took their time in these things.
Multiple syllables.
John A. included pictures of his cats. I have no clue why he included them. There's just pictures of his cats. Like, hey, I don't know. Maybe he was using it and he was like, "This is my view right now. Here's my cats." Well, I don't know.
You can train the cats to use the toilet.
I don't think they want to use a bidet. That would really freak those guys out. They would not be into that. But my point is, Mike, these new listeners, strap in because this is the kind of hot fire content you get on the show.
Yes.
Yes. I'm almost positive, Mike, there is no other radio show or podcast out there that reads real reviews of bidet seats.
That's right.
Are you ready to fire the show up, Mike?
Let's fire up this show, Doc G.
Woo!
All 3 engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and lift off.
Mike, let's be honest. There's probably like 55 shows that actually do that. I mean, good Lord, all the podcasts that are out there. I'm going to look it up, listeners. I'll get back to you. We'll probably find one that's better than ours, but I'm going to look up, see if we have any bidet reviewing podcast out there. I bet you. How much would you want to bet, Mike? I'm going to bet you $50. There is another bidet reviewing podcast out there. Do you want to take that bet?
I mean, considering that there are podcasts, they get niche. I'm sure there are at least 3 bidet podcasts, and I know they're reviewing.
Okay.
And they're coming out every week.
Yeah, they are.
On Wednesday.
Coming out hot with it.
Yeah. They're on time.
We got competition, Mike.
Yeah.
We have got competition.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Doc G. I can't take you up on that bet.
I understand it. It's smart money. It's smart money. But regardless, Mike, we have a fantastic show. We have the one, the only, Rodney Crowell on the show. Absolute songwriting legend. Written songs for just, think of somebody, and he's probably written a song for him.
That's a fact.
I mean, you know, the Bob Segers, the Merle Haggards, the Waylon Jennings, the Johnny Cashes, the Roseanne Carter Cashes, the Keith Urbans. The list goes on. It's just, it's insane. But first, Mike, we need to start where we start.
Birthday suit.
Happy birthday, Mr. President.
Mike, since we're, I did not write down your record, but we all know. I'll go back. I'll find it. Don't worry. Don't worry, listeners. We won't have an update for the new listeners out there. Don't worry. Yeah. It'll come back.
It's decent. It's decent.
Right now, listeners, I can tell you he's right around 60, a little over 65% for this year. Yeah. For his season, for his career, he's right below 60%. So he's hitting
below 60%
for career wise. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. You finished at like 55, if you remember, 55% at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're bringing the average up this year, so that's good.
All right.
I think you got this first one 100%. Born on February 28th, 1999 in Slovenia. He is number 77 on the Dallas Mavericks and is averaging 34 points a game this season. Name that birthday suit wearer.
Luka Doncic.
Luka Doncic is correct. Yes. Nicely done, Mike. I was confident.
Yeah.
I was confident.
Thank you.
Born in Slovenia. His dad was a former professional basketball player. I didn't really realize that. I guess I should have, since, you know, he's been playing since he was like -4. Makes sense. But he touched his first basketball when he was 7 months old, Mike. 7 months old. When he was 8, he was practicing with the 14-year-old boys. So had a little extra competition. When he was 13, he was given a developmental contract by Real Madrid. 3 years later, he turned professional. So when he was 16, he dominated playing in Europe, and by 2018, he was EuroLeague champion and MVP. He was drafted in 2018 by the Atlanta Hawks and then traded to the Dallas Mavericks. In 5 seasons since being drafted, he has been Rookie of the Year, 5-time All-Star, and 4-time All-NBA player.
Jeez.
I think that's pretty much everything you can do, Mike. That's most it. I am going to say, though, he does look like he's like 35 years old. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, even though he's obviously young, there's something in his face whenever I watch a game that I'm like, that dude looks old as shit. I don't know what it is. Might just be because he doesn't like to run fast down the court. That might be it. I don't know. He just does. He looks much older than his age, which his age is 25. He's turning the big quarter of a century, Mike.
Nice.
Quarter of a century. Yeah. Yeah. Happy birthday to the one and only Luka. Yes, indeed. Just balling outrageous.
Yeah,
Mike,
he's killing it.
you ready to rip some headlines?
Let's rip some headlines.
It's now time for Rip from the Headlines.
Mike, I don't want to bring down the show. I mean, we've been at a high point. Bidets, Luka, all kinds of stuff. But I got to tell you some bad news. Do you remember Flacco?
Flacco.
Yeah.
Kind of. Vaguely.
He was the Eurasian owl we talked about a while ago that escaped from the zoo.
Oh, yeah.
From the, yeah.
Yep.
He's been flying around New York for the past year on his own, just being free as a bird, literally, because he's a bird. Yeah. Yeah. I got bad news.
Oh, no.
He died.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah, he died. He died. They're thanking Mike. The most accepted theory is that he ran into a building. Which is a big problem, Mike.
Yeah, for sure.
Apparently that happens over 1 billion birds across America in a year. Just America.
What? 1 billion?
1 billion.
Wow.
Yeah. Apparently buildings are like the cigarettes of the bird community.
Oh my gosh. That's wild.
Wiping those dudes out.
Just buildings. Oh, man.
Mike, I'm not into conspiracies, but this situation seems a little fishy, you know?
Yeah.
There were too many people looking to hold Flacco down, trying to cage that beautiful bird. And when they couldn't, they just decided to get rid of him. I'm a little suspicious. I think this might involve, maybe the drug cartels. I don't know. Something outside, you know?
Yeah,
but
it could be.
His death may not be in vain, Mike. The New York government has already started looking into passing the Feathered Lives Also Count Act.
They really tippy-toed on that line. They really danced on that.
Why did they tippy-toe on that line, Mike? Because the acronym is the Flacco Act.
Oh, that's nice.
Feathered Lives Also Count Act. Flacco. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Brad Hoylman Siegel, state senator, said when an animal like Flacco captures the public's imagination and ends with such a sad story, I believe we should try to make some good out of it. Amen, Brad.
That's right.
Amen. R.I.P. Flacco.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, we're going to move on to some better stuff here. Talk about some clickbait I came across, Mike. I came across some clickbait from the old Lad Bible. So I'm cruising along the headlines, and I see one that says, quote, Kira Sedgwick wasn't surprised when she found out her husband, Kevin Bacon, was her cousin.
Huh?
Yeah,
what?
Exactly. Listeners can't see, but Mike just had a look of pure confusion and surprise. And that was my look, too. When I saw this, I was like, that's a bomb right there. So I click on the story, right? First of all, I found out that this quote unquote discovery happened 11 years ago, Mike.
What?
Yeah, and I'm like, lad, what are you doing, man? You can't just recycle headlines from 11 years ago. And it happened on the show Finding Your Roots. I think we've talked about Finding Your Roots before. They basically just do your genealogy for several years. In fact, Ben Affleck went on that show, and he was so upset when they found out that he had slave owners in his family that he stopped them from airing his episode because he didn't want that out there. And I was like, dude, you didn't do anything. It's your turd family members that did something. Like, come on. But
I'm gonna get canceled for 2 family generations ago.
Exactly. Yeah, he was concerned. But anyways, when they did this with Kira, they found that Kevin was her 9th cousin once removed.
Word.
Ew.
So we've actually been over this topic a little bit on the show, Mike, but that means they shared a great grandparent.
How many greats is that? I didn't
8.
count. 8 greats.
8 great grandparents. And there's a generational difference between the 2 branches, between Kevin's side and her side. That's the once removed part. Mike, most people in our country have over 1 million 9th cousins. Most people in America have over 1 million 9th cousins. The majority of 9th cousins don't actually share any DNA because of how many marriages have taken place. So what I'm saying is, Mike, I could care less that Kara and Kevin Bacon are 9th cousins. In fact, I'm saying, listeners, get out there and all your 9th cousins. Do it. It's totally cool. Get into it.
Well,
you know,
that's all you, Doc G. It's going to take 10 great grandparents for me.
I am drawing the line at 10. No, thank you.
10.
I got to be honest. I don't think I have time to get to all of my 9th cousins. I'm not knocking them out in that amount of time. Mike, have you ever driven through the Hollywood Hills?
I don't think so. I mean, I went up one of the mountains, that goes up to the observatory, or you can see the observatory. It's the Runyon Canyon. Yeah, I went up that one. Yeah. Yeah,
there you go. Yeah. There's some pretty bananas houses out there.
Yeah. It's nice.
Some nice ones,
Yeah, for sure.
I checked it out. The average price for a house in the Hollywood Hills last year was roughly $2.15 million.
Oh, wow. I thought you were going to say 30 million.
No. Yeah. I mean, but it's a little bit out of my price range.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But prices did not stop the dude in this next story, Mike. Apparently, a guy found a Hollywood Hills mansion that wasn't being lived in, and he broke into it. He broke into it, changed all the locks, cut the alarm system, put up a new mailbox, and started renting the house out. Like he made up his own lease. Yeah, he made up his own lease, just did everything.
Like 1800 style.
Yeah.
Just go in and this is just my house now.
This is it. In particular, Mike, apparently he started renting it out to OnlyFans content creators.
Ew.
Yeah. Now, none of this was discovered until realtor Emily Randall Smith was hired to sell the property by the actual owners of the house. Whoever these rich folks are that were like, hey, do we still own that house? We do. Let's sell out of that. Okay, sounds good. So decided to sell the house, and she went to the property and realized, oh, hey, there's somebody sleeping inside this house right now, right? And she said she knocked on the door. A woman answered, and Emily said, quote, she was renting from the guy who was like the whole ringleader of the thing. She was hired to do OnlyFans content in there. So it was a little eerie and weird. Because when we went in there, you could tell that there was like some weird stuff going on in there. What was going on in there, Mike? I need her to elaborate. If I was that reporter, I'd be like, was there dripping off the curtains? What was going on in there? But I mean, obviously, Mike, this was super illegal. But I feel like you got to give it up a little bit for the ingenuity of this guy, you know? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure if I was the rich guy that owned this house, I'd want this guy that broke into my house to be sent to death row. But I can still respect the hustle. That is getting it, you know?
Yeah, it is.
I'd like to know how much he made for that. You know, how much did you get before things all fell apart?
Yeah, like what was his rent price for that place?
Exactly.
Whatever. Yeah. I wonder if he was.
You would think it'd be pretty high, or at least I would.
Yeah, or he would not know how to price it. Like, $2,000. Yeah.
Mike,
12 bedrooms. Okay.
Mike, Miley Cyrus. She's in a new movie that just came out.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, she's in the movie Drive Away Dolls, which apparently it's about a duo of lesbians that take a road trip. Now, she's not one of the lesbians, Mike. She plays Tiffany Plaster Caster, which is a fictional character based on the real life Cynthia Plaster Caster, who had a career of casting penises of famous musicians in plaster.
Sweet.
Yeah, she made artwork of that. Yeah. Now, the director, Ethan Coen, said that he had Miley in mind for this role basically the whole time.
Huh?
Which I'm like, what? Really? All right. But he said he was worried that Miley wouldn't want to play this part, just because of a little bit of a stigma there. Mm-hmm. And he said, when we asked her to do the movie and sent her the script, we didn't realize that she was a long time, what's the word? Connoisseur? Student? She is an enthusiast for penises.
Okay.
She only told us that after the fact. She said, yeah, man, I have a whole penis room in my house. It was profiled in Town and Country.
Wait, what?
Okay. A penis room.
A penis room, Mike. Exactly. I can't tell if she's joking or not. I don't know.
Did you look into this? You didn't look into
I tried. I did a little bit, but like I was at work. I didn't want to get, fired.
Yeah.
I don't want to be looking up penis rooms in houses,
Yeah, good idea.
And if she does, like you said, Mike, what's that consist of?
I don't know, but we're gonna find out.
Is it art?
I'll get back to you.
Yeah,
probably. It's probably a little bit of everything, right?
I guess it got to be. I mean,
think there's a penis chair.
It's giant. It's like like those banana boats that people ride on behind jet skis. It's just like that, Oh man, Mike. On to another singer, Olivia Rodrigo. She's out there doing some things. Mm-hmm. Ladies love her. I don't know if you noticed that. They're big into her. She just started the Guts World Tour. Her that's a fact. Big, massive world tour that started this past Friday. At her show in Palm Springs, a crowd member recorded a video of her, talking to the crowd. And at one point she says, guys, I went into a gas station the other day and bought a pack of cigarettes and a 6-pack of beer. I promise I didn't consume it, but I just bought it because I could. Right? Talking about her turning 21, Mike.
Right.
Turning 21. And Mike, I'm so old and don't ever purchase either of those products. I completely forgot you had to be 21 to buy cigarettes. Like I was like, did anybody tell her she could buy those when she was 18? She was missing out for 3 years. Then I was like, oh, it's 21 now. That's right. Wow.
I just learned. Now, okay.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah. Happened like 5 years ago, Mike. Happened like 5 years ago. Yeah. Then, Mike, she reassured the audience that growing up wasn't scary. She said, quote, anyway, all this to say, I think growing up isn't so scary after all. And life just kind of gets better at the end, you know? I feel like so that it's not biased, Mike, I feel like she should have got like an 80-year-old up there to confirm this. And they instantly would have shot it down. They would have been like, anyway, I think life's not scary and life just gets better at the end. What do you think, Thelma? And just pans over to Thelma and she's like, I would disagree with every point you have made. It is worse, everyone. Much, much worse.
Everyone around me has died. I have everything.
I have every disease known to man. Oh, she seems like she's having a good time. Get it, Olivia. You get it. Mike, real quick here. I've got big news for the folks that live in Sacramento, the old Sac town.
Yeah.
Their first alcohol-free bar has announced a permanent location, Mike.
Wait, what?
You heard me. An alcohol-free
bar, yeah. And I'm like, okay, is it at a church or like where?
Listeners, you might know it by its other name, a useless building. Yes. Yes. But apparently, Mike, it's called the Teetotalist. The Teetotalist, and it offers a unique and inclusive social experience for people who choose to abstain from alcohol or simply want to explore new and exciting non-alcoholic beverages.
Okay, like a kombucha bar.
I guess.
Or maybe
I mean, not to be a buzzkill, Mike, but I'm pretty sure people can do that with a Coke freestyle machine too, if they want. It's got like 3,000 different possibilities.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I'm also going to go out on a limb, Mike, and guess that the amount of hookups occurring at the alcohol-free bar relative to a regular bar is drastically lower.
Yeah.
Not a lot of dry fires in the sober area being like, hey, want to go back to my place? No, I don't. Okay, sounds good. Enjoy your kombucha. I'll see you later.
Bartender, let me get another soda on the rocks, please.
It's a hard, rough night.
Oh, gosh.
No, not hitting. All balls tonight. Mike, we are going to take a break. We are going to hear from Rodney Crowell. This is Bluebird Wine right here on the Doc G Show. And we are back here on the Doc G Show. Spinnaker Radio, WSKRLP 95.5 FM in Jacksonville, Florida. Mike, what do the listeners need to do?
Doc G, if the listeners feel like the show is a positive way to learn about bidets, they should please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, a lot of places. It's a cost-effective way to support the show. And if the listeners are feeling extra generous, please leave us a 5-star review and a comment, and tell a friend. We really appreciate it.
Amen. Mike, we got a couple of subscribers from the show too. That's more analytics that I can look at. This past show, a couple of people were apparently like, President's Day, F yeah, I'm in. Yeah. Sign me up. That's what I want to be a part of. And if you guys are listening out there, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for buying in. We appreciate it. And now that you know, we followed up President's Day with washing your butthole. You're even more in. Why not? Right? We need to thank those regulars, Mike. We need to thank them. Okay, here we go.
Shout out.
Shout out Jacksonville, Florida, Columbia, South Carolina, Radford, Virginia, Gainesville, Florida, Frankfurt, Germany, Anoka, Minnesota, Ashburn, Virginia, Purcai, Brazil, San Diego, California, Dublin, Ireland, Boardman, Oregon, Genoa, Italy, Richards, Texas, Barcelona, Spain, Winfield, West Virginia, Biloxi, Mississippi, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Peoria, Illinois, Katy, Texas, Toms River, New Jersey, Olive Branch, Mississippi, Asheville, North Carolina, Los Angeles, California, Spartanburg, South Carolina, I'm running out of room. Athens, Georgia, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Chicago, Illinois, Boynton, Virginia, and Mike, the last one, Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Fort Lauderdale, welcome.
We know, Mike. We're going to the elbow room soon. It's happening.
Yes, live show.
We're getting there. I can't wait. Mike's gonna be very excited. He's gonna
I
have
love
his.
Fort Lauderdale. Oh my God, I'll stay there for a week. We'll do one show. I'll be there for a week. Easy.
I'll stay there because I've got my brother's house to stay in. He'll kick me out.
There you go.
He'll be like, dude, you've been here for a month and a half. And I'll be like, they love me here. Come on, man. Let us stay. Jeez. Mike, we do have some great 4-star listens here. Big listens from Cary, North Carolina this week. Big listens. Several hundred listens just coming from Cary.
Nice.
Thank you, Cary. Thank you. Shout out to Boston, Massachusetts. I'm guessing some real Godsmack lovers there from the old hometown of Boston. So shout out to you guys. Manhattan, New York. Shout out to the Gotham City there. Sacramento, California. Sacktown. Yeah. Getting all wasted on those non-alcoholic drinks. Listen to us. Yeah. Odessa, Ukraine. Shout out to you guys. All right. Ann Arbor, Michigan. Teaneck, New Jersey. Didn't know that was a place, but Teaneck. Mettmann, Germany. Queen City, Charlotte, North Carolina. Shout out to you guys. San Jose, Costa Rica. Shout out to you guys. Walnut, California. Shout out to you guys. Vele, Denmark. Completely screwed that up. Shout out to you, Denmark. St. Louis, Missouri, and Verona, Italy. There we go, Mike.
Cool.
There we go.
Cool.
Thank you for the listens.
Thank you.
And of course, Mike, the top 5 countries listening to us outside of the U.S. in this order from 5 to 1: Spain, Singapore, Germany, Denmark, Ukraine. There we go. Cool. Shout out to you guys. Thank you. We love the international listeners. I can check out if you guys are watching YouTube. I can find out when you did, when you stopped listening, and how old you are. I'm very excited about it. Mike, we need to open up the miscellaneous file real quick.
We do.
Mike, we opened the show with a humdinger about bidets, of course.
Yes.
And I have a little bit more bathroom conversation I wanted to cover on the show today.
Love it.
I was thinking about this because, of course, I was in the bathroom yesterday, and something very offensive happened to me while I was in the bathroom. I went to the urinal, and in the urinal, there was a paper towel. In the urinal.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Monsters do that kind of thing.
Exactly, Mike.
I don't know.
Exactly.
I lose a little bit of faith in humanity when I see that.
Exactly. Who throws a paper towel when you know it's not going down the drain?
Yeah.
It's not possible. All you're doing is getting a paper towel soaked in that a janitor's going to have to fish out of there. Like, throwing it on the floor would be a less than throwing it in the urinal. Like, it's either a person that's too stupid to realize that paper towel isn't going to magically disintegrate, or there's some sadistic turd that likes to think of janitors having to fish it out.
I'm going to go with the latter.
Yeah. Regardless, fix your life, people that do that.
Yeah, seriously.
Anybody that's listening right now, you fall into the same category as the people cutting through parking lots, and the same category of people that are not going at green lights that cause everybody to miss that light. You are in the same category, which, by the way, Mike, after we talked about that, I hit one of those people. Not like I didn't hit their car, but I was behind one of those people and totally just got stopped at the light, and it was so annoying. They did not move. We all missed the light, and I literally wanted their car to spontaneously combust. I was like, I want to see this car burst into flames.
Do you honk?
It didn't. This is the sad part. I don't honk so much. I was too stupid to realize where the horn was on my steering wheel for like 5 seconds. I was like, where? I thought it was just in the middle. This is a bag. What do I do? Where is it? And then I finally realized it was on the side. And I was like, oh, man. So then it already lost the point, you know? It would have been like a joke that came 15 minutes too late. The person was like, "What? We stopped talking about that 10 minutes ago. What's wrong with you?" So, anyways, Mike, I thought that needed to be addressed. Those people out there leaving paper towels in the urinal. Who are you?
Yeah, disgusting.
And why are you a psycho? Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Stop.
It's disgusting.
It is.
Anyways, Mike, we are going to take a break. We are going to be right back with the one, the only Rodney Crowell right here on the Doc G Show.
The Doc G Show. Because sometimes you need something playing in the background. Every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on 99.5 FM, Spinnaker.
This is 95.5 Spinnaker Radio. WSKR-LP-FM, UNF Jacksonville.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. We are very excited to have a songwriting legend in our midst today who released his album, The Chicago Sessions, back in May. He's currently touring. He will be performing on the Cayamo Cruise at the start of March. Mr. Rodney Crowell. Rodney, how are you, sir?
I'm okay as far as I know.
That's true. That's true. I'm always so excited to have guys like yourself on the show that have had such amazing careers, and I look back at the career and I go, man, and there's so many cool stories. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, how many times has he told that story? And I start to feel bad as far as asking you some questions. So I hope.
Oh well, some of them are well rehearsed, but generally speaking, I try to find a new way to tell the same old story if indeed it's called for. But let's see what happens. Roll the dice.
I'll try to spin them a new way than I've seen them in other interviews. But before we dig into any of the past, let me start with the present here. The Cayamo cruise. I know you've done this cruise before. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of music cruises out there. How do you feel in general? Were you skeptic when you first did the first cruise? Were you like, this is going to be weird? Or were you excited about it?
I was okay with it. I didn't have any trepidation about getting on a boat. And I just went in with an open mind. Now, some of my musician friends that I want to go with me, won't get on a boat. and listen, I was on the Cayamo cruise just before COVID broke wide open, and everybody on that boat was sick. Yeah. And we just pulled into port the day before they started shutting people down, and so we got lucky there. We flew home and infected the whole plane that we were on. It was outrageous. So you're in close quarters with people on a boat.
Yeah.
You're eating with them, you're singing in their face, and the fans are quote unquote fans. They are very respectful. I enjoy those conversations actually once I get past the one thing that wears me down is when they say, "Oh, I saw you so and so in 1984." I can't remember where that was.
I'm going to go through the Rolodex of 10,000 shows. Yes, of course, that one. Yes.
Well, it's an opening line for someone who admires your work. And I understand that. But once that's gone and you're just talking about, well, you got any kids or something like that, it's human interaction. And I don't think it's not in a songwriter, or any kind of writer's best interest to not engage with people on the street. So I try.
Well, I've heard from other artists before, as far as the cruise sort of environment, that most of the fans that are there are very respectful, anyways, of like, privacy as far as, and boundaries. They're not like just all the time in your face all the time trying to get things signed or talk about it in particular things. It's they let you have your time.
It's a shared experience.
Yeah.
It's a shared, and especially Cayumo. It's a songwriting reverent crowd.
Yeah.
And which makes it easier is sometimes they want a little explanation about why I said beautiful despair is hearing Dylan when you're drunk at 3 a.m. Why would you say that in a song? And I say, I'm not saying that about me. It's somebody else I was with at 3 a.m. was listening to Dylan and said, I'll stay drunk the rest of my life because I'll never write like that. It wasn't me. I mean, I was just adopting something somebody else said and make it as the first person narrative.
Yeah.
Hard to explain.
Oh yeah. That's opening to the middle of the book and saying, tell me everything. Give me the synopsis of this book. Well, I mean, that's also where you met Jeff Tweedy, who
that's true. Yeah.
Produced your last album. So and that is that where he asked you to come to Chicago for the
No, that's where he invited me to Chicago. And I'd heard his album. Actually, I heard I Know How It Feels to Not Be Loved on NPR, driving home late at night. When you're in a car and it's just the headlights and the car's dark and music comes into the car and fills you up. That's probably when music sounds best to me.
Yeah.
When I'm alone with my thoughts, and here comes Jeff saying this beautiful track of that song, just longing, and I loved it. So I immediately bought the record. And so when I saw Jeff on the boat, I just went over and I said, hey man, NPR sold me one of your records. And we had a brief conversation. He said, well, come to Chicago sometime and try out my studio. I thought he was just being nice. I said, I didn't presume anything. And I told my daughter, who's much smarter than I am. She said, Jeff Tweedy invited you to his studio and you haven't gone? And I said, well, he's just being nice. She said, call your manager and have him call his manager. Next thing you know, we're making a record. So I owe that one to my daughter. She's smarter than me.
It would have been awkward if she would have been wrong on that one, and he was just being nice. He was like, "What? No, I don't." Oh, okay. I guess we'll make some time.
A lucky break.
Well, I'm gonna jump into some old stories here. I wanna
Right.
jump back all the way. Actually, I want to go. I'm a huge fan of the Ken Burns documentaries, and I'm a huge fan of the Ken Burns country music documentary, which of course you were a part of there. And he actually uses one of your stories of your past in the documentary as like a segue from old country to the 70s country. And
what did I say? Do you remember?
Well, the story is you going to see Hank Williams when you were 2
with my father. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
with my father. Yeah.
And obviously, you were 2. You don't really remember anything. I've heard you talk about that before, and how you remember sort of just a sensation of being on your dad's shoulders.
I remember the smell of his hair tonic.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
Yeah.
And I clearly remember 2 things. An eddy of cool air touching my cheek, and the smell of his hair tonic, wild root cream oil, probably. And but the rest of that memory is his, because all that my father was a Hank Williams fan and a local hillbilly singer. Yeah. And he constantly reminded me, and I took you to see the Hillbilly Shakespeare. And Here's an interesting story about that. Maybe nobody, I don't know if I've ever told this part of the story publicly, but when I was writing my book, Chinaberry Sidewalks, a memoir, I was writing about that Hank Williams. My father taking me to see Hank Williams. So I was stuck, and so I drove down to Montgomery where the Hank Williams Museum is. I just told my wife, I'm going to Montgomery, I'll be back. I don't know what I'm doing. So I drove down there. Now, flashback to when I'm 5 years old, the Shamrock Hilton Hotel in Houston had a big fountain, the Meekum Fountains it's called, this giant hotel there. And we would drive by it in my father's Studebaker, and I'd look at it and I'd go, my God, the fountains are all lit up. And I said, I'll never be able to stay in a place like that, because we were East Houston poor. So when I get down to Montgomery, nobody's in the Hank Williams Museum but a lady at the desk, and she recognized me. And she said, what are you doing here? And I said, I don't know. I said, I'm writing about my father taking me to see Hank Williams when I was 2 years and 4 months old. And she said, come with me. So she took me back into the vault, way back into the back, and then there was the accounting ledger. She goes back to December 14, 1952, and she opens it up and she says, look at here. Hank stayed at the Shamrock Hilton Hotel in the presidential suite that night. Guess how much it cost?
I'm $20.
Close. Good guess. It was $28 to stay in the presidential suite at the Shamrock Hilton Hotel, where I would never be able to stay. And when that happened, I just went, oh, man. So I started heading back home, and I just pulled off the side of the Interstate 24 and just pulled over in my car with my notebook, and I just started writing. And in longhand, I got a lot of that chapter just knowing that it only cost $28 to stay in the presidential suite, and you were Hank Williams, and you were going to die 2 weeks later, opened up the pathway to where I could write that chapter, or write those 7 or 8 pages that are in that chapter. Is that that's a good story, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Have I told it before?
I actually, honestly, I think you might have in one of the interviews that I have seen with you, maybe.
Okay.
I do remember the hotel. I do remember you talking about it might be just from the memoir itself. With that, what does that memory mean? Like you said, it's your dad's memory. What does that memory mean to you? Because like it's like I said, they use it in the documentary. Ken Burns uses it in this documentary as far as like basically showing you being one of the new songwriters in that 70s era of country music, basically connecting to that past. When you look back on it now, as far as like going to that concert, what does it mean?
What it means to me is what I wrote in the book, in which my father dreamed of having the career I've had, and it was not meant to be. He was a dirt farmer, sharecrop farmer kid, but what he was saying to me when he took me on his shoulders, and what he was saying to me when reinforcing the memory for me, and it's what I wrote in the book. It just came to me when I was sitting on the highway. It says, look at me up there. That's who I really am. And that was the gift that he gave me with that. It's like, he knew it wasn't going to be, but he was letting me know in his own way is that was the dream he had for himself. And so maybe I just took it from there, and because I've had a career, I haven't been Hank Williams by any stretch of the imagination, but I've kept a roof over my head since I was 22 years old, just writing songs and making music. So you'd have to call that a success.
Yes, definitely. Well, in several interviews you've had, I've heard you talk about your songwriting career and how it essentially started around the Beatles and Bob Dylan. You know, that's when you got interested, from changing from just being a musician. You played with your dad in his bands. You got interested in the songwriting aspect with the Beatles and Dylan. And you got a master's class in songwriting with Guy Clark, Townes Van Sant later. But initially, what would you say from the Beatles and Dylan did you learn initially as far as songwriting when you first started getting into it?
I would say it started before then. It started with my dad, who would sit on the side of the bed with his eyes closed singing "No One Will Never Know the Truth But Me," or "Put My Little Shoes Away." And I'd be playing on the floor and I'd hear those songs and they crept into my psyche. And then it was the late 50s. It was Chuck Berry and Elvis, because I love Elvis 1956, but he lost me pretty quickly. But Chuck Berry had me, and a lot of late 50s rock and roll had me. And of course, country music was in my DNA. But, you know, about the time that 13 years old, when puberty strikes and the girls are, you know, vivid, and the Beatles come across and you hear those, you watch them on TV and the girls are screaming, you know, I want that. And then Dylan comes along and you go, how do you do that? But I'll tell you, also in 1964, Willie Nelson had "The Sun Is Filled with Ice and Gives No Warmth at All." One of the most ironic pieces of songwriting is as ironic, actually, as "I Walk the Line," Johnny Cash. And I heard that in 64. It was played on pop radio around Houston in 1964. And that was another one where I said, whoa, how do you do that? So a lot of my influence was songwriting beginnings were, how do you do that? And then I got to Nashville and I happened to just stumbled into a songwriting salon.
Yeah.
Where I could see how you do it up close and personal with Guy and Townes and some other folks that were around. Mickey Newberry. Mickey Newberry was profoundly influenced me because Billy Joe and Guy and Townes had those kind of baritone voices that carried poetry really well. Christopherson, that baritone thing that had gravitas. I started listening to Mickey Newberry and he's singing Cordelia Clark or San Francisco Mabel Joy in a tenor. I'm a natural tenor. And Mickey, it's like an operatic tenor, but he was writing beautiful poetic pieces. And that's when I said, oh God, I can't get to where Townes is with that watery bottom end in his voice. And now the Beatles, you get the girls and it's inspirational and it's fun and it's provocative and profound in its own way. But Newberry had that beautiful, you know, Roy Orbisonic tenor. He said, I heard his daddy was an honest man, just a red dirt Georgia farmer, like San Francisco Mabel Joy. When I first heard that, oh man, okay, all right. Hold everything. I got to ponder, how do you do this? And eventually through osmosis or whatever, and also because of my DNA and because of my father and in her own way, my mother, I was born to be a songwriter. And fate would just put me in places where it was so obvious. It was so in my face that I started to understand that I could do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you mentioned you moved to Nashville for I actually saw, you know, you moved to Nashville because you thought you had a record deal. You basically were duped, thought you had this Capitol Records record deal that
Columbia.
Columbia, which you got to go back to.
which I eventually got.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like I was wondering because I feel like if I were in that scenario and I got tricked into this situation and I'm in Nashville, I would have just gone right back to Texas. What kept you in Nashville?
I think the very thing that got me there in such a suspicious way is like whatever, the universe, whatever, whatever the puppet strings, they got me there.
Mm-hmm.
And my partner at the time, Donovan, who has traveled with me now forever, he lit out. We were a singing duo. He lit out. He had a girlfriend, and they headed for Arizona or somewhere. But I stuck around and got taken in, and pretty soon after the boom was lowered about this is all a sham, I met Guy Clark.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I met Skinny Dennis Sanchez of Guy Clark's LA Freeway fame. And he and his partner were lazy, and they knew I had a job washing dishes. So they invited me to take the other bed in the house because I could pay the rent, probably $25 a month. And that's where I met Guy and Susanna. And actually, Susanna and I hit it off before Guy and I did. Took Guy a minute to understand where I was coming from. The way Guy took me in because I knew all of those old songs that my dad had played, and I could keep him interested or sort of entertained with whatever I had by singing "You Got to Have a License" or "Put My Little Shoes Away." These old Appalachian Dead Baby songs that I learned from my dad. That fascinated Guy.
I was about to say, Guy seems like a guy that would be hard to entertain. To just, he doesn't seem like every interview that I've seen with him, he just seems like it's like a no nonsense. It's a lot like you actually mentioned. I've heard you talk about how when you were learning to write songs and you'd bring it up to him, he'd say, "Hey, bring it to me." And then you would have to recite it to him just without the music. You would just
I'd have to look him in the eye.
Yeah. Yeah.
He had those piercing Scorpio eyes, and it's like, look me in the eye and tell me those words. Don't play your guitar. Of course, I learned is because when you want to look away, you know that you're trying to slide one by, and it does not serve the narrative. That was a gift, which I could never repay. And I have these songwriting camps where songwriters come from everywhere. Once in a while, I'll have them sit in front of, look me in the eye, and read me their lyrics. And they'll look me right in the eye and read me their lyrics. And I think the reason I might have been a long-term professional songwriter is because I knew when I was missing the point, I'd look away. But some young songwriters have not yet figured out that, as a friend of mine once said to me, I said, "What is the biggest thing that happens with your graduate students?" Where she teaches up at Syracuse. She said, "Oh, that's easy. Falling in love with what they've written." And I find that, a young songwriter or even an old songwriter who'll give me a lame lyric and look me in the eye without looking away, I said, they're never going to understand. You got to have that intuitive thing of like, oh, I'm trying to slide this one by.
Yeah. I mailed this in.
It's self-editing that makes for good writing, or being lucky enough to have a real editor.
I'm guessing you intentionally do that now when you write. You sort of, do you sort of go to even the level of imagining Guy still being there in front of you? In a way, not obviously, but like thinking about.
Subconsciously, I would say probably so, but I've done it so long that I'm able to do that to myself. I used to write songs in an afternoon, and occasionally it still happens, but now I'll work on them for a good long while.
Yeah.
And moving, it's like, Oh, I thought that was really good, but on further consideration, it's short of the mark.
Do you think you? I mean, because I've heard you talk about like "Shame on the Moon" and how that irritated you for years. The last verse of the song. Do you think something you might over edit yourself, like in the fact of like you just look too much at those songs?
Yeah, of course. Of course I do. Probably most of the time now. I've done it so long and I'm so heavily self-edited that sometimes I go back to where I started. You know, sometimes I'm smart enough to go, I had it better back there.
Is there any point that you just say like, okay, this is retired. Okay, I'm not touching that anymore.
No. I play, you know, there's some songs I played for years that I still tinker around with. See if two words makes it better or whatever. But for the most part, being, 20 something is an interesting creative time in one's life. And if you look at God, Lennon and McCartney in their early 20s, they were explosively creative. If you look at that period of Dylan at 63, 60, that he was like, "It's all right, Ma, I'm only bleeding." That's otherworldly. And Townes writing No Place to Fall and the things that he wrote, Quicksilver Dreams of Maria, when he was 24, 25. I had my own version of that with I Ain't Living Long Like This, Until I Gain Control Again, and Leaving Louisiana. Some of the songs that are probably my more recognizable songs, they came in my 20s. And it seems like creatively, if you got the gift or the work ethic, generally speaking, the work ethic's not there. It's got to be a gift usually in your 20s to get a good one like that. As we age, and I'm a septuagenarian now, and I'm still striving as much as I ever did to write a really good song. But a lot of water is under the bridge, and those moments that happen in your 20s happened like lightning in a bottle in a way. Now it's all earned by, well, they say elbow sweat. It's like it's labor that earns you inspiration now, or earns me inspiration now. Occasionally something will pop up, but I got to work to bring it to the level that I believe that it should be. And maybe it really doesn't need to come up to that level, because when I was in my 20s, I didn't care. I just wrote it down, and if the last verse, I only discovered after I recorded the song of Shame on the Moon that the last verse was pukey. I had a songwriter who recorded the song and caught me in a public place, and it's Mac Davis, I can say it now, but Mac said, "Hey, I recorded your Shame on the Moon song." He said, "I wish I could have been there to help you with that last verse." I hugged him. I said, "Yes, somebody who understands."
Get it. Well, it does remind me, I mean, just the way that you defined as far as, the 20s versus later in your career, it makes me think of like any sort of talent career makes me think of an athlete. You think of like Michael Jordan at the start of his career. He was relying on that explosiveness, the amazing talent that he had. And then the later in the career, it's the skill. It's everything else that he's learned over those years that's getting him to those masterpieces.
Yeah.
True. Well, you like we talked about, you met Guy Clark and Van Sant, and you talked about how they really made you do that sort of eye-opening. Okay, all right. How do you do that? What's that? How's that go? Van Sant is he's a cult figure, and I hear him all the time being called a songwriter's songwriter. What made you say? Like, explain to us non-songwriters what makes him on that other level as far as being a songwriter's songwriter.
Townes had a magical knack for creating. Sometimes I thought this image will be too light to really capture the depth of what he could do, but his songs are almost like cloud formations that just assemble themselves in the sky in front of you. And it's when Townes would play a new song, or I would hear songs that he had already recorded or whatever it was heavenly organic the way he did it, and it was dark too. So it can't be frilly to describe what Townes did, but he had a particular gift. Or as someone once said, "Oh, it's like that song just grew up out of the ground," and there was no writing involved in it. Most of Townes' songs, even some of them that were his lesser works were, you can't find how it was done. Cannot figure out how it was done. You can't figure out how "It's All Right, Mom, Only Bleeding" is done, really. But I think, as Steve Earle famously said, Townes is the better of the two. And I think if that were to be true, it's just that Townes, you could not put your finger on how he did it. I could put my finger on how Dylan did some of that stuff, and try to understand in my own way how to get there. Hey, look. Till I Gain Control Again is the result of knowing Townes, and also playing Help Me Make It Through the Night in a Holiday Inn about 1,000 times when I was playing in Holiday Inns in East Texas. It's like, Help Me Make It Through the Night, Until I Gain Control Again is like, I'm not ashamed to say that's my interpretation of Help Me Make It Through the Night. I don't know that I got a song that could be interpreted from Poncho and Lefty or No Place to Fall, maybe. But see, when you start trying to describe Townes in the way that you're asking me, it's a tall order. It's a gift beyond gifts. And there are writers that who would accomplish the same thing in different ways. Poets, take your pick. But I was lucky enough to be like face to face with Townes a lot, and strangely, here's what I can tell you about Townes. In the early 70s, there was a long sloping sidewalk, and we used to put beer cans down, and we had a skateboard. And we used, in 72 and 73, Townes and I would do slalom skateboarding down, and Townes was the best skateboarder I've ever seen. Had he been born later, he would have been one of those guys that you see doing amazing things. His coordination was just fluid. He was watery on a skateboard. How's that?
Man, Tony Hawk, the pre-Tony Hawk there.
Pre-Tony Hawk, you're right.
Man,
I think he would have been in that, and he wasn't. I just had a skateboard. I don't even know how I got it. I couldn't make it through past 2 beer cans before I was stumbling, but he's just gliding down.
Man of many talents. Well, not too long after you actually professionally started songwriting, Emmy Lou decided to record your song Bluebird Wine, and you guys met in person not too long after that as well, and you've been partners in music really ever since. It's another thing that it's probably too hard to describe, but it's one of those things that stuck with me with that documentary, the Ken Burns documentary about country music. in there was a quote from Johnny Cash, and Johnny Cash says, "Every so often, country has to get back to Emmylou Harris." And
yeah,
what does that what does that mean? What is that saying as far as what Emmylou Harris is, as far as a songwriter and a musician?
well, I know I've never spilled these beans publicly, but I know that John had a massive crush on Emmylou. Anyway, I mean, he loved June, but he knew how close Emmy and he used to like, "Do you think she would like me?" It was that kind of thing. So that may be part of it, but he may have been talking about the purest aspect of what Emmy brings. I mean, her interpretation. I met Emmy not too long after Graham died, and I never knew Graham. But as it would happen, I just happened, sort of, as she's explained it to me, a lot of her relationship with Graham was about songs, and Graham was teaching her about songs, old country songs, and she was just absorbing it. And part of her grief, I think, after Graham died, was that she didn't have that conversation. And I stumbled into her life, and we started singing Louvin Brothers songs together, and we started having a conversation about songs. And I became her close friend and ally because we just had an ongoing talk about songs. And I'm repeating myself, but which still exists to this day. We have a lifetime of shared things, but in the end, it's that fascination. How do you do that?
Yeah.
But I don't know that I've answered your question about John, other than revealing he had a mad crush on Emma.
I mean, that's one of those things that I think you did in a way, in the fact that it's obvious she is fascinated with the songwriting and country music. And that's always been one of her sort of driving forces of her creation of music, is trying to get to that ultimate country songwriting, the
purity of it, the purity of it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The purity
Absolutely.
of the purity of the tradition, the narrative, and the heartbreak. It was Towns, I think, that said there's two. There's the blues and there's Zippity Doo Dah, and it's sort of applicable because I mean, sometimes when we perform together, just the two of us sitting on a stool now, and occasionally just trade songs and stuff. And she said, "Get ready, because we're going to sing a lot of sad songs." And the reason I was able to stay in the songwriting salon before I developed with Towns and Guy and so many other people that were around at the time was because I knew some really sad songs. So you get more gravitas out of a really sad song than you do Zippity Doo Dah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you can sing you Are My Sunshine, My Only Sunshine. Okay, that's cool. But They'll Never Ever Take Her Love For Me is another thing. It's humanness. That's Emmy. And I think that may be what John was talking about, to get to that real, if you can get to heartbreak and do it with some style and grace, then you've done your job.
Yeah. Well, I've had several folks on the show before that have been around John. Speaking of Johnny Cash, and we have David Ferguson on the show that recorded that was here for a lot of his stuff, and we had Marty Stewart on the show, and he talked about meeting Johnny Cash. And I was wondering, do you have a memory of that first time you met Johnny Cash?
Yeah, at the Beverly Hills Hotel with his daughter, who I was dating at the time, and she said, I want you to come meet my dad in June. So they had a bungalow, one of those bungalows in the back of the Beverly Hills Hotel, and the big pink hotel on Sunset Boulevard. And it's like, yeah, here I am. And it was what, 76, 78. Yeah. Went and had candlelight dinner in their bungalow. It was pretty heady stuff.
That's a not nearly as fun of a start interaction with Johnny Cash as Marty and Dave had, as far as meeting him the first time. That's a lot more intense with being a first date.
It was, but there was something about it that was really sweet that I told June when in the late 30s, Carter Family would record in San Antonio and to broadcast from border radio on XERA. Mm-hmm. It was a Carter Family live on XERA. And John used to say, yeah, it was the signal was so clear we could pick it up on a barbed wire fence in Arkansas. But in the 50s, mid 50s, with my grandmother, we would listen to rebroadcast of the Carter Family shows on XEG coming from down on the border, different radio. And so June was 11 back there in the late 30s. Mm-hmm. So I had a crush on June from 1955. When I thought she was still a kid or close to my age. So I said, I told June, I said, I've been in love with you since 1955 when you were 11 years old. And she said, why? That's the best compliment I've ever been paid. So that broke the ice on it, and everything just rolled really good from there. And they introduced me to expensive French wine. So that was, I'd never had anything but Boone Farm apple wine up until then.
I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. That's an expensive thing to be introduced to there.
I know it was rarefied air, but I adapted.
Well, I want to move forward there with another sort of era of your career. You had a real successful solo era there in the late 80s, early 90s. Diamonds and Dirt was probably the most successful album. You had 5 #1 singles on the album, but I've heard you say that's not your best album several times, as far as like in your where and why does it rank lower?
Songs are good.
Mm-hmm.
The songs are good, and the production was good. The sound of it was good, but I wasn't fully there yet as a performer. I've said, you probably, it sounds like you've checked me out pretty closely. As I've said, and it remains true, and some people argue with me, but I know this for a fact. It was about just before the Houston Kid that I finally found my voice. And when you say voice, it's narrative, but it's also as a singer.
Yeah.
I just was, why people say, why are you so down on the sound of your voice, in 1987 when you made Diamonds and Dirt? And I said, because I'd heard Ray Charles and I'd heard Don Everly. Duh. I'd heard Roy Orbison. It's like, I don't have to be perfect, but I got to be there. And I finally discovered, with the help of a recording engineer who removed reverb from the process of recording, and we said, what? And he said, trust me on this. And suddenly there was my voice and I heard it.
Mhm.
And as I heard it, I said, oh, I can work with this. And then I started really, so from 2000, from Houston Kid on, I felt like there was a real recording artist at work. Before that, there was a pretty impressive songwriter at work.
Mhm.
But I didn't think the singer had arrived until about 2000. And I'm sticking with that. And it's not, I don't want to slag off the work I did getting there.
Yeah.
But look, as an artist or anyone as a neurosurgeon,
Mhm.
to develop your skills to the point where your confidence becomes unconscious,
Mhm.
where you don't have to prop up yourself with this conscious creation of I mean, it's part of the insecurity of being a performer. Some people are overbearing. It's because the insecurity is not backed up by an inner confidence.
Mhm.
And I didn't acquire my inner confidence until I was 50 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm glad, because it's given me, the last 22 years of my recording career have been I've loved my work, because
Sure.
I've been, and it's not all, there's peaks and valleys in the work. What, 12 records, whatever I've made, I don't know what it is. Some of them are better than others, but I was working from a more confident interior.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm talking about, really,
Yeah.
when I say, oh yeah, I just wasn't there yet.
Yeah. Definitely more on the performance side too, not on the songwriting side of those.
Yeah,
those
yeah.
songs.
I mean,
Yeah.
I stand by songs I wrote in 1972 to this
Oh, yeah.
day.
Oh yeah.
Stand by them,
You
They're
know.
good songs.
I love Bluebird Wine. One of my
Yes,
favorites.
good song. I played
Yeah.
it the other night in Key West, and I thought, wow,
Oh,
this is a good song.
that's a good place to play it right there. That
Yeah.
goes with the scenery.
Mhm.
Well, now to circle back around, latest release, we talked about it at the beginning. Chicago sessions there, recorded with Jeff Tweedy. I heard you talk about how you were excited about playing in Chicago because of all of the history of Chicago, and then of course of getting to record with Jeff. How did, once you actually recorded there, how did it compare to all the places that you've recorded when you recorded in his loft space?
Well, that's a unique place.
Mhm.
And Tom Schick, his recording engineer at the Loft, is a unique recording engineer. I love working with him. I mean, he's a perfect sidekick for Jeff. And plus, it's just really, really great instruments, great gear, great
Mhm.
vibe,
Mhm.
and the romance of Chuck Berry
Mhm.
recording here, and Howlin' Wolf. So that romance, because you could come to Nashville. When I first got to Nashville, it was the romance of Hank Williams and the romance of Chris Christopherson. When I got to LA, it was the romance of the Flying Burritos and the Byrds, and take your pick, Beach Boys. New York City, there was when I first recorded there, it was the romance of Bob Dylan at Columbia Studios. And when I finally got to work at Abbey Road, it was a romance of, whoa, Studio B, this is where the Beatles made all this music.
Mhm.
In Austin, it's the romance of Willie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm in it for the romance. It's perks you up.
Nice. Well, you got a lot of shows coming this month, coming through our town here in Jacksonville. Very excited about the show. And I noticed way down the line at the end of the year, you got a show coming with John Paul White, who we had on the show. And John Paul White, I'll tell you, you were talking earlier about the sad songs being more emotional. I don't think that guy can ever play a happy song. I don't think I've ever heard him play a happy song. You might have to force him. Try to get him on one of those happy songs.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, I'm thinking, surely we wrote a song together and it is sad. Oh, but God, what you got that voice that John Paul's like Roy Orbison. It's like you can't zippity doo-dah with that voice. It's like you gotta break hearts with that voice. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And he's so compelling.
Yeah.
He's a sweet boy, that one. He may sing sad songs, but he's a sweetheart.
Oh, he's fantastic. He's fantastic to be on the show. Very nice. But speaking of, Rodney, we are up against a break, but I want to thank you for bearing with us through going down memory lane and talking about the things as well.
My pleasure, man. It's we'll do it again some other time. We'll make up some news stories.
There we go. Listeners, make sure you check out Rodney when he comes through Jacksonville on February 28th. Make sure you stream all of his music right now. We're going to take a listen to Everything at Once right here on the Doc G Show. And we are back here on the Doc G Show. You just heard Rodney Crowell. Fantastic, Mike. Yes! Fantastic. Just a legend. A legend. I always get excited. I mean, we've had a lot of legends on the show, but it's one of those things. And I'm like, man, could the 15-year-old believe that I've talked to all of these legends? No, he would not believe that. You know, he would be amazed.
Yeah,
but
that's a fact.
I think I made Rodney a little self-conscious there at the beginning of that interview. When so before the interview, I was watching I was doing my research, watching all these old interviews of him, and in those interviews, he was covering the same questions every single time. They'd ask him the same questions, and I was just like, yeah, man. He's been doing this for like 45 years of answering all of these same questions. I feel bad for him. So when I came into the interview, I wanted to apologize. Like, hey, man, if we rehash anything that you've already talked about, I'm very sorry. And I think he took that as, oh, crap, I tell the same thing every single time. I'm going to have to try to tell new things because he's bored. And it wasn't because I was bored. It was just the fact that, I felt bad for him, I feel like after you tell the same story 150 times, you're like, Jesus Christ, again? I got to tell this one more time, Yeah. But then after almost everything he said, he'd be like, that was something new, right? You never heard that one before, right? Just trying to get, huh? Is that new? Anybody? No? And I didn't want to tell him, Mike. I sort of said, but that Hank Williams story that he had, he had told that one before. And he's like, that's new, right? And I was like, yeah, sure. Maybe I've heard it once or twice, I think. Maybe parts of it. I don't know. But you got to give it up to him, man. Always nice going on those interviews. Always giving his best in interviews. I feel like if I were him at that point in my career, I'd sort of be the Greg Popovich of musical interview guests, where everything would be a sarcastic comment. And they'd be like, well, so you started it when? I'd be like, oh, why didn't you look it up? You didn't look it up? Well, you don't seem to be good at your job. Anyways, but he's a super nice guy and super talented, and can't believe we had him on the show. Shout out to Rodney.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. Mike.
We do.
We need to move on to the fastest growing segment in the world.
Mike's the top 3.
Mike, I didn't know what to do on this one. Yeah. There's a lot of mysteries out there. So, listeners, if you weren't aware, this week's topic was the top 3 mysteries. Top 3 historical mysteries, And there's a lot of them, Mike. There's a lot of them. I could have done 50 honorable mentions, but I just did the top 3.
Okay.
I just did top 3. Do you have any honorable mentions?
Yeah, I guess I do, because I have 4 here. And I guess this would be who killed JFK?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm going to go. I was about to say, I'm going to go with the authorities on that one.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the authority. Main reason I go with the authorities on that one, Mike, is it's one of those classic conspiracies of where we just don't want to believe that something so random happened to someone that seems so powerful. But you can't control randomness, man. You can't control dumb in a window with a sniper gun, you know, and just, But it is a mystery. And I don't know. Mike, my number 3 goes to a place that you have been. Death Valley.
Death Valley.
Death Valley. The sailing stones. There are sailing stones in Racetrack Playa of Death Valley. These stones get up to like 700 pounds. And apparently, they just slide through the desert, and there's no detectable traces of how they move.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
What about like? Yeah, I don't know. No, I have no idea.
Now,
I don't know.
Now, scientists think they have solved it. They think they solved it back in 2014. They think it happens when it actually gets cold in Death Valley and water gets under the stone. It freezes, and then the little freeze moves. It's basically they slide because of wind, and then they slide across the actual sand, making the tracks. But I don't know. That seems tough. That seems... I mean,
it's so gradual. It just happens. Yeah.
It's definitely wild though, because you got these big stones in the middle of this sand, and you can just see their little track, and it's obvious that nothing external has moved them. There's no like person pushing behind them. It's just this crazy little track. It's wild. It's wild. Mike, you're number 3.
Okay, so Dr. G, mine are wild. Okay. Mine are pretty wild.
Okay.
Here we go. So we'll start with my most, maybe my most wild one. It's just more of a question, but like, did the dinosaurs use tools? And how far, if they did use tools, how much technology did they have, if there was any? I don't know. I wonder. It's like, hundreds of millions of years that they were on Earth. And like, only a small percentage of that time period we got
down. Yeah. Well, I mean, it doesn't take too long. I mean, as far as our history, there's a lot of guesswork. I mean, and when you get hundreds of millions of years, there's definitely a lot of guesswork.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all the archaeologists are doing is a bunch of guesswork based off of science of what we have now and other things.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe they were back there. Maybe they had dinosaur computers. Who knows?
Like the dinosaurs show, like the puppet.
Oh yeah.
I think we've talked about it on the show, but I always wonder if it that's like almost like a realistic
yeah, that's what they were doing. Exactly.
Wearing shirts.
Mike, my number 2, the Tunguska explosion. So it happened in 1908. Massive explosion in Siberia, in Russia, in 1908. The blast is estimated to equal 2,000 Hiroshima atomic bombs. And this is a crazy thing. Like they think it was, a meteor, right? That's the sort of the best guess of what caused it. But like my favorite thing is they could see this thing 500 miles away. It was measured on seismographs literally all the way around the world. And in 1908, it wasn't investigated truly by any investigators until 1927. What?
That's actually better than I thought. I thought you were about to say like 1980 or something.
But still, 19 years, somebody's like, think we should get over there? I don't want to go over there. It was scary.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. You see how big that explosion was? I'm not going anywhere close to that. Like almost 20 years. It's crazy. And they're still not sure, but it's It's a Nutter Butters, man. Just this massive explosion. I mean,
what was the city? Or where was it?
Tunguska. So Tunguska. Tunguska.
Cool.
Yeah. It was wild.
Yeah.
Mike, you're number two.
Random. Number two. What did the Native Americans know that we don't know? What kind of tricks, what kind of hacks did they have that we don't know? Because like
we're missing out on a lot of TikTok videos they could be making.
We're missing out on so many dances.
They got some cool things, man. I thought about putting that in mine before the Mayans, before the Aztecs. There were the I think they're called the Oldecs. I need to go back and look at their name. I'm not sure what their name was. But they had these giant headstones. They carved out these giant, and it's another one, it's like Stonehenge. It's like these others. Like the rock only could come like from this place 300 miles away from where they were actually at. And you're like, what did they do? I mean, in my guess, they probably, forced some like sort of slave labor to move it across that that area. Like, you're going to carry that 300 miles. What? Us? Yeah, just push it. Keep pushing it. We're going to get it all the way there. But still, just wild, man.
Have you heard the theory about like Stonehenge? It used to be like a forest. Like there used to be a forest there, and they used trees and logs, and they basically like
rolled it. Yeah. That's a good idea. Mike, you're number two, or two. Yeah.
My number two. Well, my number one, I think, would be my
number one. Yeah. I forgot. I passed it off on you, even though that wasn't one that I was just. I got to do my one first.
Doc G, what's your number one?
My number one goes exactly what we were saying. Who built Stonehenge? That's my number one.
Yeah.
It's nobody knows. Came about like 6,000 years ago. It took the different areas of Stonehenge are 1,500 years apart. So it's 1,500 years of building this thing up. These are massive stones. Mm-hmm. It's wild. And it's just out there. And like, what were they like? Why were they just like stacking dominoes on top of each other? Like, that's a rock. Look at that. It's on top of the other one. That's wild.
That should stop the rain, right?
Like, we got it there. I think your wife's pregnant now, thanks to that. High fives. Like, yeah.
We're going to be good for eternity.
It's wild, man. I so many questions. So many questions.
For sure.
What's your number one?
Well, Doc G, I think I've brought this up on the show too, or maybe I've just said it so many times in my life, but what information did we lose to library fires? Library of Alexandria, the House of Wisdom in Baghdad, huge fires. Just so much knowledge was lost. I mean, and who knows what was in there?
Definitely lost some really cool history, at least. I mean, even if it wasn't like knowledge of like, we lost that. Like, at least there's probably a whole bunch of things that we could like, mysteries like these things that we like, oh, that's what happened. Yeah, it's right here. There it is. Historical records. That's man. There's a lot of them out there, though. Like I said, I could have chose I don't know how many different things. There were a whole bunch of different crazy. Just a bunch of things. I mean, and then you get into like the wild like Bermuda Triangle things too. That you're just like, what, why?
Yeah.
What's up with this triangle? Is it why is it a spooky triangle? What's going on? I
think it's all superstition, but some people have some
little bit
magnets. It's magnetism.
There you go. Mike, what is our topic for next week?
How about top 3 jump scare moments in movies?
I don't like that, Mike. I don't like that for the fact that I don't like to be jump scared. And I also don't watch a lot of those movies. So
we're all repressed memories.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I want to jump in laughter, which, by the way, plug, Mike, I watched the new Ted series on Peacock. Don't know if you knew that was out, but Ted from Seth MacFarlane from Family Guy, who made the movie Ted.
Yep.
They've got a series now of Ted when he was in high school, when when they were growing up, and I watched the first 3 episodes. I endorse it.
Okay.
There were definitely a couple of parts of it that I laughed pretty loud by myself out loud, and I was like, that's that. Yeah, I was like, that is solid. That is solid writing right there. But anyways, Mike, do we have another? Do we have another option?
Top 3 viral videos.
Okay. I don't watch too many viral videos, but I'm sure I can go back and just find some that were, top 3. We can get behind that. Yeah.
You want to try the viral videos? Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. We'll do viral videos. Top 3 viral videos. I like it. I'm writing it down. Okay. Put it in the old vault. There we go. Viral videos. Locked in. All right. Mike, we have got 2 birthday suit wearers. You're not going to get the last one.
Okay.
But let's go ahead and try to get this first one. I think you can get it.
Cool.
Born in College Station, Texas, our birthday suit wearer is sometimes known as the Bald Mamba. He won a NBA championship with the NBA Lakers in 2020, and he has been with the Chicago Bulls ever since 2021. White dude that wears a headband a lot, Mike.
Oh, yeah. Alex Caruso.
Boom! Nice.
Got it. Yes. Wow. I'm so happy I got that one for some reason.
Nicely done, Mike.
Yeah.
February 28th, 1994.
Oh, wow.
He averaged 18 points, 9 rebounds in high school, ended up going to Texas A&M for college, and during his 4 years there, he averaged 8 points and 8 assists. He went undrafted into the NBA draft, or he went undrafted in 2016 draft and ended up signing with Oklahoma City Thunder. They dropped him down to the old G League. And then he ended up playing with the Summer League Los Angeles Lakers, and they gave him a 2-year contract in 2019. He won a championship, and then they traded him to the Bulls, and he signed a 4-year contract. But last year, Mike, he was selected for the All-NBA defensive team. So there you go.
Nice.
Alex Caruso.
Nice.
Happy birthday, Alex. Turning
Happy B-Day.
Yeah, turning the old 20 or 30, sorry. Turning the
30.
old 30. Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy. Mike, this is the last one I don't think you'll get, but we'll give it a shot. This man has won a Nobel Prize and a Nobel Peace Prize. He's one of only 2 people that have won individual Nobel Prizes, 2 different Nobel Prizes. He is one of the founders of the field quantum chemistry and molecular biology. He developed the method of X-ray crystallography of molecular model building that led to the understanding of DNA. Later in life, he became obsessed with megadosing of vitamins, particularly vitamin C. He wrote 2 books titled Vitamin C and the Common Cold, and then later Vitamin C, the Common Cold, and the Flu. Name that birthday suit wearer.
Man, I feel like I don't want to sit around and I don't know this guy's name, but I feel like when you say it, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, that guy. But I will honestly tell you if I have no idea.
I'll give you his initials just in case.
Okay.
LP.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Linus Pauling, Mike. Linus Pauling.
No way. No.
Mike, I am very familiar with Linus Pauling. Linus Pauling, very interesting that second half as far as his obsession with vitamins. It really came out of nowhere. And for a guy that was so based in science, it didn't really have the same backing that all of his research in molecular biology and quantum chemistry had. And all of a sudden he's just like, hey, you know what? You take a whole bunch of vitamins, you'll be good. You'll be healthy. And they're like, no, you won't. Doesn't show it. And like, he never had any research showing it, but that's really one of the main reasons why vitamin C became so popular. Not because it actually helps you defend a cold, mainly because he wrote that book. In fact, the sales over 4 years quadrupled of vitamin C after he wrote that book. Yeah, they call it the Linus Pauling effect, Mike. Which, I mean, makes sense. I mean, you know, if you think about somebody going into their doctor and being like, hey, I'm sick. Should I take vitamin C? And the doctor's like, what? Why? And they're like, Linus Pauling told me to. He has 2 Nobel Prizes, you turd. Do you have any? And they're like, no. And he's like, yeah, I thought so. Give me my vitamin C. So, anyways, Mike, Linus Pauling. There you go.
Linus Pauling.
Linus Pauling. You were 2 for 3, Mike. Keeping the pace. I like it. I like it, Mike. Well done. We've got 10 months to go though. Get ready.
We do.
Mike, we have fantastic shows coming up. My goodness, the guests that we have on the show. Woo! You don't even know. Cedric Burnside, just a fantastic blues artist, Grammy-winning blues artist coming on the show. We have Lawrence Roquel Payton Jr., member of the legendary Hall of Fame 4 Tops on the show. My gosh, can't wait to talk to him. We have the drummer from Foghat, the legendary band in the Hall of Fame, Foghat, coming on the show. And we have the fantastic artist Hannah Wicklund, who is coming on the show. Fun fact, Mike, we interviewed Hannah Wicklund's brother about 6 years ago on the show. Yeah.
Really?
Actually, about 7 years. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. How's he
family
doing?
ties. He's doing good, man. He is doing real good. Mike, we need to wrap up the show for now. I have been your host, Doc G. With me, as always, the one, the only, Mikey Maximus, the Vernicus, Charette.
Always a pleasure, Doc G. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Of course. And until next week, zip it up and zip it out.
Zippity-doo-dah.